thankfully, everything that I went through, nothing did permanent damage to that I couldn't overcome, even in the midst of filing bankruptcy and having to watch some of the people that I love go through the same thing and it being my fault. Whew. To this day, I'm still like shook by that. Hey, you guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Culture of Health podcast. I pour my heart out in this episode. I really hope you guys appreciate this. Before you guys pull out your notepad and maybe your tissues, I want to tell you guys about one of the sponsors of this podcast who is making all of this possible and a company that's helped me improve my gut health. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the several studies out there that talk about how beneficial increasing your fiber intake is to your metabolic health, but several studies show that adding more fiber to your diet not only improves your blood sugar levels, decreases your A1C, and decreases your risk of pretty much every chronic disease across the spectrum, it also helps you to live a good life on a daily basis. It helps to relieve gut discomfort, helps you to have higher energy levels. And so one of the hardest things that any of us can do is increasing our fiber intake with just food alone. And it's difficult because we live very busy and distracted lives. My thing is, though, we shouldn't let our busy, distractful lives, if distractful is a word, we shouldn't let these types of lives prevent us from having the best health possible. And so I'm always looking for different ways to sneak fiber into my diet. And one of the ways I love to do that is using Supergut's products. They have 3 products that help me do this. The first is the Supergut Mix. This is 8 grams of prebiotic fiber and a powder, and I mix it into things like spaghetti, smoothies, oatmeal, you name it. It doesn't have a taste, doesn't change the texture of my food, and again, adds 8 grams of prebiotic resistant starch fiber. It's the type of fiber that ferments in your gut, and it feeds the good bacteria in your gut while reducing the population of bad bacteria. And that's super helpful because it leads to a healthy, balanced gut microbiome. So that's one of the products, the Supergut Fiber Mix. They also have fiber bars, which are actually really delicious, that have ingredients that I'm very okay with. And those have 10 grams of prebiotic fiber. Really good to replace typical granola bars with if you're looking for a snack in the middle of the day. And then last, they have Supergut Shakes. I've been drinking protein shakes for the past 8 years. And now I have, in addition to my protein shakes, that adds 10 to 20 grams of prebiotic fiber, depending on how much I want to put in. One thing about these shakes, you will feel full. So if weight loss is your goal, one of the best ways to do that is through appetite control. And fiber is nature's appetite suppressant. Including more of that into your diet will help you to control your urges for snacking or just eating meals in general. So if you're ready to increase your fiber intake to improve your health and really just how you experience life on a daily basis, I highly recommend you give Supergut's products a try. You can do that by going to supergut.com or just going to the show notes of this podcast and clicking the link there. And maybe you'll find a special discount there waiting for you. All right. Thanks for listening, you guys. Hope you enjoy this episode. Thank you so much for tuning into another episode of the Culture of Health podcast. I am your host, Austin McGuffey. And today I'm going to tell you guys a little story about how I lost $1 million and how that propelled me into my purpose. It's basically a story of how I turned trauma into passion. So I'm just going to jump right into it, you guys. I, as you know me today, am metabolism mentor. I talk a lot about blood sugar, glucose, and the impact that it has on metabolic health. This person that you see in front of you today is a byproduct of something very traumatic that I went through in 2017. So just a little backstory. When I was really since I got to college, I always dreamed of being an entrepreneur. That was my thing. That was my persona. It was everything about me. I used to go to school in college in the middle of the heat. This is Atlanta, Georgia State University, in a suit and tie every day because I wanted to show up as my best self, right? I thought that I had to dress up for people to take me seriously as an entrepreneur. That's how serious I was about this image that I painted for myself. So entrepreneurship was my identity. And when I had an opportunity to, start this venture that ended up failing, this was my claim to fame. I was going to be the Black Mark Zuckerberg, but I ended up just being black. The Black Metabolism Mentor. But okay, let me just get into it, you guys. So first of all, when it comes to like my health and stuff, I treated my body like crap. I've been trying to work out consistently since 18, right? You know how you go to the gym, you lift weights for a week or two, get pumped. I'm doing my protein, my creatine. I get a little bit of muscle. And then after a month, I lose it all because I fall short. I just stop going, just like many of you guys, right? So that was the foundation of my experience in the gym. Remember this because it's going to be important later on in the story. So I met this guy, right? Well, I have a friend that I went to high school with. His name is Carl. Shout out to my boy Carl, okay? Carl is the one that got us into all this mess. So he and his friend in Statesboro, Georgia, they operated a paintball facility. They had a massive warehouse, 120,000 square feet, and about 35% of it, maybe 30%, was being used for an indoor paintball facility. And it was pretty cool. It was turf laid out. They had obstacles up, several paintball guns. They had a nice operation going, but there was about 90,000 square feet on the other side of the facility that was unused. It was just an empty warehouse space. And they had the bright idea to start our own indoor trampoline park. So you can imagine maybe in your area, it's an Urban Air or Sky Zone. Well, we thought that we would start our own independently owned trampoline park on the other half of this facility because it was already being patronized for paintball. And we were like, you know what? Why not? So Carl and we talked about it. We thought it was a great idea. And at that time, it was just an idea, right? I'm 25 years old and it's just like, yeah, sure, we can go get all this money and we can do this. But this was a legitimate business operation. And being my 25-year-old self, I wasn't able to handle it at the time. But I'll get into that. So we had all this square footage. We started playing around with the idea of doing an indoor trampoline park. And man, it just happened so fast. One conversation turned into several conversations. Carl's friend, who I'm not going to reveal his identity because I don't know what the statute of limitations are on some of the stuff that was going on. But he shall remain nameless. But we ended up getting into a partnership. And, you know, my job in the partnership was to market the business, to get people in the building, and to raise the money needed to purchase the equipment that we needed and to complete the build out of the facility. Because again, this was an empty warehouse. So we had to, build rooms for parties. We had to buy the trampoline equipment, build an office. We had to pour concrete on the floors, insulate the roof. We ended up doing all these things, right? So it was a huge project. And we underestimated the amount of money that we would need to start. We assumed that we can get by with a $350,000 cash infusion plus a $350,000 tenant improvement allowance from the landlord that owned the building. Well, my friends, we were wrong. We ended up needing well over that amount of money, but the simple fact that we raised, the initial $350,000 was astounding. Fantastic. Even going back thinking about it, I'm still amazed by the fact that I was able to pull that off. But let me tell you guys how that started, the raising money. This started off with us acquiring this trampoline park equipment. So this stuff usually costs about $300,000 to $400,000 for the amount of trampolines that we were putting into our warehouse. $300,000 to $400,000 is what we would have had to pay for it from the manufacturer, brand new. Well, there was a trampoline park that just closed down, and the equipment was being auctioned off, and we were licking our chops. It was like, all right, bet this. We felt like it was God, throwing us a sign that this is what we're supposed to do. God was like, look at these young kids, these little black boys, these broke black boys. Ain't got no money. Let me throw them a bone. Here's some, gently used trampoline park equipment that you guys can use to fund to fulfill your dreams. So we went for it, man. I created an account with this online auction company. And I remember this like it was yesterday, you guys. We were expecting to spend, I don't know, maybe $50,000 to $75,000 for this equipment on discount. So the auction starts, right? I'm sitting here. If you're watching this on video, you can kind of see me stretching. This is how I was getting ready to bid on this equipment. I'm stretching. I'm like, I told Fantasia, like, get out the house. Like, you know what I'm saying? Y'all go to the library or something. I got to get this equipment. So the auction starts and I'm nervous. My heart is beating. And I just knew this was the breakthrough that we needed, and I knew it was going to happen. So boom, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000. And I'm just hitting the button, acting like I got money in the bank. Keep in mind, we have $0 to our name in this business. But I know I had good credit. I had people who, you know what I'm saying, I had parents who love me and support me, who might be willing to help. I was like, we'll figure it out. $0 to my name. $15,000 bid, $20,000 bid, $30,000 bid, $40,000 bid. And I'm just clicking the button. $50,000, $60,000, $70,000. And it slowed down. And then somebody else bid 75. So I was like $80,000. And at this point, I'm like, oh, shit. It's getting real. $90,000, $100,000, $110,000, $115,000, $120,000. And so at this point, I'm rationalizing in my brain, like, okay, we're going to do this venture one way or another. Either we're going to spend $350,000 for brand new equipment, or I can still continue this bid to get this equipment. So I keep going. 130, 140. And then it stopped. It slowed down. And the next person bid $142,500. And at this point, I was froze. I was shook. Didn't know what to do. The auctioneer is like, 143, 143. Does anybody have 143, 143, 143? So I'm screaming. I'm like, ah. I cuss. I'm like, man, F it. Boom. 140. How much money do I have to my name? $0. Negative net worth. Boom. $143,000. I clicked the button. And deep down inside, I told myself, I was like, that's the last time I'm hitting this button. If someone else bids, so be it. Man, I wanted somebody else to hit that button so bad. I wanted somebody else to hit that button so bad, you guys. The auctioneer is like, going once, going twice, going three times. Sold to Austin McGuffey out of Atlanta, Georgia. I was like, yeah, motherfucker, let's go. I'm like cussing, I'm standing up, I'm clapping. Boo, 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 boo. And then reality set in. I didn't have any money. How was I going to pay for this? And then here was the kicker. The auctioneer called me right after the end of the auction. He called me. He was like, hey, man, congratulations on this equipment. I'm 25 years old. This man is probably 60. And now as a 31-year-old or almost 32-year-old, you know, like you can look at people and you can, or hear them and you know they're young and inexperienced. Man, he smelled it on my breath over the phone, miles away. I knew he smelled it. But he was like, all right, Austin, congratulations. You won this equipment. That's and we had bought some other stuff from the auction. So our total is like $162,000. And he was like, is it going to be cash, check, or wire transfer? And I was like, this is literally what I say. I was like, you know what? Let me get to my accountant and I'll give you a call back tomorrow. He was like, all right, sounds good. Remember, you have 48 hours to complete this transaction. Let me tell you guys something. That 48 hours turned into 4 months. 4 months it took us to finish raising this money. And we did it through So many different ways, you guys. We financed this equipment. There was a lot of cash. We took advantage of several 0% credit card offers. But 4 months, this man threatened to sue me. There was so much that went into getting this trampoline park open. Now, this was just the trampoline park equipment. We also had to we had to build this facility out. We hired 50 employees prior to this trampoline park opening, you guys. Hey, you guys, I really hope you're enjoying this episode so far. One of the things that I didn't mention in this podcast was how sucky I was at taking supplements throughout the process of building this trampoline park. And I would have completely overhauled my supplement routine if I knew how important that was for me showing up as the best version of myself. Now, the reason I sucked was because I just wasn't consistent, just like many of you guys. Some supplements are supposed to be taken once a day, others twice a day, and sometimes even 3 times a day. By the time 5 o'clock rolled around, I couldn't even remember what I had already taken, and it was just like, man, if I don't take one, then forget the rest of them. I ain't taking anything. When it comes to supplements, finding one that's high quality is just as important as finding one that's easy to implement into your routine. And I gotta say, it's nice to finally have something that checks both of those boxes, and I'm absolutely feeling the benefits of it. You didn't know what I was talking about. I'm talking about AG1 by Athletic Greens. 1 scoop of AG1 delivers comprehensive and convenient daily nutrition with 75 vitamins and minerals, and it even includes probiotic and digestive enzymes. I've been able to easily turn this into a habit by stacking it with something I do every single morning, which is eating eggs. While my eggs are scrambling, I'm sipping on some AG1, and by the time the eggs are scrambled, I've done something to improve my gut health, immune function, and mental clarity. Now, how's that for a good habit? This happens every single morning. So when the day takes off and I'm running from one thing to the next, like I was while we were building this trampoline park, I have peace of mind knowing that my body has already gotten what it needs. Habits. Ladies and gentlemen, it's all about those habits. So if you want to take ownership of your health and your habits, today is a good time to start. Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. You're going to go to athleticgreens.com/TCHP to take advantage of that exclusive offer. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/TCHP. All right, I'm just go ahead and finish pouring my heart out about this trampoline park. So listen, even after I started taking my health seriously, after the failure of this trampoline park, there was still a ton of confusion on all the information out there about how I should be eating for better health. Sometimes I just say F it and start eating anything because nothing makes sense. That is until I learned about Levels Health. Levels is building tech that allows people to see how food is affecting their health by way of continuous glucose monitoring. The first 2 weeks of using their app completely blew my mind. Let me tell you guys, I tried everything. Pizza and wings, burgers and fries, steak and veggies, 8 shots of Casamigos. Yes, 8 shots of tequila. And that video is actually on my YouTube channel, so you should check that out. But monitoring my glucose levels taught me how to eat and live in a way that keeps my blood sugar stable, which improved my sleep, gave me more energy, helped me stay focused throughout the day, and completely transformed my relationship with food, which would have been extremely helpful in the process of building this business. If you've ever been told conflicting things about nutrition, it might be time for you to ditch what everyone else is saying to tune into what your body is telling you. And continuously monitoring your glucose is currently, in my opinion, the best way to do that. If you're ready to accept responsibility for your health and ready to learn more about your body, I can't speak more highly about what Levels is building and how they're helping thousands of people see how food is affecting their health. If that sounds like something you can use in your life, I've dropped an affiliate link in the description of this video. And if you sign up using that link, you'll receive an additional 2 free months on your annual experience. I just ask that you do one thing, you guys. Keep me posted about your experience. I love to hear all about how Levels is helping you improve your health. There was so much that went into getting this trampoline park open. Now, this was just the trampoline park equipment. We also had to we had to build this facility out. We hired 50 employees prior to this trampoline park opening, you guys. So this was a year's worth of raising over $1 million. Me driving 3 hours out of the city that I was living in once a week to go down and check on progress of the facility, check with my partner. I'm on the phone with him every single day for hours, talking things through, planning things out. This was the biggest investment of time and money in my entire life. And I knew that I was going to make me a millionaire. I just knew it. I knew it. And so leading up to the launch of the trampoline park, I was like doing the marketing. We're getting thousands, and we built our social media following on Facebook from 0 to 10,000 likes in 2 or 3 months. It was buzzing. Birthday parties being booked, big groups being booked before the trampoline park even opened. Statesboro is a small town. If you're from Statesboro or you've heard of it, then you know. Hopefully you didn't. Hopefully you had a good experience if you went there. But small town, it was buzzing. And so leading up to the launch of the trampoline park, you guys, we're in crunch time, and we're down there in this small town, crossing our T's, dotting our I's, and we finally launched this facility. March 26th, 2017, we opened this facility, and the first month we made $82,000, you guys. $82,000. And our expenses, our monthly expenses were about $55,000 a month. This was payroll, insurance, cost of goods. So we had a whole concession stand that we were running. $55,000 a month was our expense. We made $80,000, and that was our first month. So naturally, you build out a trajectory of sales. It's like, all right, that was just our first month. We're gonna do 90 next month. We're gonna do 100 next month. We're gonna do 120. And I'm counting the profit in my head. I'm picking out my car. I had a Tesla picked out. I was about to reserve that new Tesla Roadster. Had a house picked out, a mansion. You know what I'm saying? We were already scouting second and third locations for trampoline parks. We thought we hit it big, you guys. $80,000, over $80,000 in the first month. I was feeling it. Here's the reality. The following month, our sales dropped to $75,000. And I was like, all right, it's all good. $75,000. We still profited, right? Kind of, because we still had debt. Immense amount of debt. $75,000. And then the following month, $65,000. $55,000. Month after month, $45,000. We're bleeding cash, you guys. Not only are we operating at a loss, but the way that we financed this venture, it was not just cash, you guys. It was a mixture of cash, equipment loans that we had monthly payments on, credit card debt. We used credit cards to fund a large portion of this venture. And these were 0% interest cards at first, but you know how these things work. You're 0% interest for 6 months, 8 months, 12 months max. Those time periods caught up to us quickly, and we were paying interest on the money that we borrowed to open a trampoline park. But according to our projections, it was going to be fine. They did not go according to our projections. So we're not only operating at an operational deficit, but we're also not able to service our debt. And this money that we raised didn't come from people who could afford to lose. These were my parents, my friends, people that I love and care about. And I didn't have answers for them at the time. They knew that we were struggling as a business, but when it came down to paying their bills, it was like, Austin, what the hell did you get me into? So could you imagine the pressure of not only operating a business that's bleeding money, but not being able to take care of the people that believed in you? It broke me down, you guys. So let me get back to it. $35,000, right? A month, bleeding money. And for about 5 more months after that period of time, we tried to save our initial investment by restructuring the business, rebranding the business, reinvesting into the business. But it seemed like our fate was sealed. Failure was my destiny. And at this point, I believe that to be true because of the man that I am now. But at the time, my God, y'all, At some point, I had suicidal thoughts. I remember driving to Savannah one day to deposit some money into the bank. And I was driving down Highway 16. And I remember looking at every tree on the side of the road. Like I could just turn my steering wheel a little bit and lose control of my car, just to get myself out of the mess that I've gotten myself into. Because not only did I owe people money that I solicited investment for, or solicited for investment, but there were contractors involved who helped us build this facility that we were unable to pay. And, although that wasn't really my responsibility, had nothing to do with my business in particular, the type of person I am, I still felt completely responsible. These are people with families that were looking forward to that money to feed their kids, And again, this place that we opened this business in was a small town, and there wasn't a lot of black people. So you see a couple of us running around, especially as trampoline park owners. It's like, oh yeah, felt a little dangerous. So I wanted to go at one point. I wanted to go. I didn't want to be here anymore. I would have rather at one point to have left than to face the mess that I made. But thankfully, I didn't make that decision. But ultimately, yes, this trampoline park failed. We lost all of our money. I took a big hit on my ego. And remember, all of my identity was invested in being an entrepreneur. So imagine how I felt when I failed at that, I failed at something that I rooted my identity in. I was left with nothing. I was a father, a husband, a man of faith, a stereotypical Christian at the time. Not so much of that now. Maybe that's another podcast. But I had all these things that, lended to my identity, but nothing. There was nothing more foundational to who I thought I was more than being an entrepreneur. And so when I failed, I lost what I felt like was my sense of being. Again, I went from being a black Mark Zuckerberg to just being black. And I felt like I lost everything. So luckily for me, I still had a wife and kids who loved me as if nothing happened. And that inspired me to get my shit together, to not take this L on the chin and make that my identity. Because at one point I did. At one point, I went from making the entrepreneurship my identity to making failure my identity. And now I realize neither one of those were good for me. But I made a deal with myself after this entire experience. I made a deal with myself that I need to be consistent with one thing before dipping my toes back into entrepreneurship. Because at the end of the day, I think that, you could blame that failure on a lot of different things. I could blame it on my partner. I could blame it on myself. I could blame it on the circumstances. I could blame it on our racist landlord. I could blame it on the fact that we didn't have enough money, right? There are so many different ways I could point the finger. The truth is, now I realize, I think that the reason that the trampoline park failed was our lack of consistency in doing the small things to ensure success. The small stuff like continuing to market the business, investing in our employees appropriately, being honest from a fiduciary standpoint, not just with our investors, but with our creditors and our landlords. The foundation that this business was built on was not sound. And it makes sense for it to have failed. But the consistency to me was the issue. And so I told myself I have to be consistent with one thing before ever dipping my toes back into entrepreneurship. And that one thing I decided to be consistent with was the gym. And now you guys are going to start to hear how I turn this massive failure into massive purpose. Because once I learned how to be consistent in the gym, everything changed for me. And I had a good enough reason to do so. I had just got done obliterating my sense of self-worth. And to rebuild that up, being in the gym was my choice. So it started out with me being consistent for 1 week. That 1 week turned into 2 weeks. 2 weeks, a month. That 1 month into 6 months. And it's been almost 6 years now of me working out at least 4 to 6 days a week. Mostly 6. And the person that you guys see standing before you now, if you follow me on social media or anything, you see this. Some people call me a pretty big guy. I'm pretty muscular, pretty low body fat percentage. That's mostly genetics, but it looks like it just looks like I started this way, but that's not the case. It's beneath the surface of all this physical progress is pain and trauma. And thankfully, everything that I went through, nothing did permanent damage to that I couldn't overcome, even in the midst of filing bankruptcy. And having to watch some of the people that I love go through the same thing and it being my fault. Whew. To this day, I'm still shook by that. And I gave them my word that I would make them whole, and one day I will. But that broke me down. But the gym built me back up. And the same intentionality that I apply in the gym now is how I approach just about every task in my life. With consistency, with ferocity, with intentionality, with patience. Patience is a huge one. And these characteristics that I built from working out, it helped me build some pretty cool stuff. Like this brand that I currently run, Metabolism Mentor, the relationships that I've built as a result of that. That trauma has turned into something tremendous. And I'm extremely grateful for the experience of losing all that money, because I wouldn't be the man that I am today. Now, what's most impressive to me about this is that along the way, after building up my consistency in the gym, I took that and I started to learn about nutrition. And I started using my own body as an example. And that's where I found the biggest gap in my potential. I think that as a young business owner, I was doing many things right. Not prioritizing my body was the single place where I went wrong. Because there were days where I was running this trampoline park that I just didn't feel good. I didn't have the level of energy necessary to overcome this momentous task that I've put in front of myself. I didn't have the clarity, the level of productivity, the purpose. My body wasn't equipped to handle what I put on my plate. And that's why I'm so passionate about telling people, put your body first. You can't set big goals and not be equipped to reach them. Many of us are plotting mile-long road trips and not putting enough gas in the tank to get there. And then when your car breaks down halfway there, we're scrambling, looking for quick fixes, right? Medications, shots, drugs to try to get us to the finish line. When all you had to do from the jump was to put some gas in your tank, get your oil changed every now and then, change your tires, right? That's the same thing with our bodies. I did not prioritize my body. I was eating hella candy, not getting nearly enough protein. I wasn't prioritizing my sleep. I wasn't exercising. I thought that I was going to muscle this thing off of will alone. And that exposed the biggest area of opportunity for myself. And now, before I do anything, I make sure that my body is in shape, in the right condition to take on whatever task I want to accomplish. And I am there. There's nothing that you couldn't put in front of me right now that I can't steamroll, because I hit a new level of productivity, clarity, fortitude, grit, and most importantly, purpose. And again, all of this started from a traumatic experience. So I want to encourage you guys, turn your trauma into purpose, but you have to dig deep and find out or you have to acknowledge the ways your hard experiences have forced you to level up your game, and then lean into that. You have to discover the gaps. That was the first thing that I did. The first thing I did after crying a couple times, crying, apologizing, and making some promises to my people that I'm going to make it up to them. After I did that, I looked in the mirror and I was like, where the hell did I go wrong? And what do I need to fix? And I went to work. Now, there's only one situation where you realize that you're not good enough, and that's setting big enough goals. If your goals aren't big enough to the point that you're failing, you're not going to know where to refine. You're not going to know where to improve in order for you to become the person that you need to become to reach those goals. Don't waste tough times. These tough times are meant to serve us. And although I couldn't see it at the time, damn, I'm grateful for it now. I'm grateful for losing all that money. I'm not really grateful for losing all that money. I ain't going to cap. I wish I still had it. And I wish that the people that invested still had their money too. But I found purpose in that. All right, you guys, one of the difficult things about being an entrepreneur is having appropriate health insurance coverage. And that's one thing I went without while we were building this trampoline park. But little did I know at the time, I didn't have to go without. Actually, I did know, but I was just ignorant and I don't know, probably didn't have insurance for the many reasons that a lot of you guys don't. But now that I am knowledgeable and I know better, I do better. And I want you guys to do better too. And that's why I want to tell you guys about Access Benefit Consultants. Access is my parents' company. They're also a sponsor of this podcast, and they've been in the business of insuring families and individuals for over 35 years. So they know what they're doing. And they have several agents on their team that also know what they're doing. So if you're self-employed or even employed and you think that you don't have options for good health insurance coverage, or maybe it's too expensive, I would highly recommend you give them a call, because what you know about insurance is probably outdated, incorrect, or just flat out wrong. They have agents who completely walked me and my family through the process of having affordable coverage so that we didn't have to be without, the way that we did when we were running this trampoline park. All you have to do is go to accessbenefits.com, fill out the form on their website, and one of the agents will be in touch with you in no time. Or if you're antisocial like I am sometimes, they have a tool on the website where you can get a quote or even enroll yourself in coverage that you need. Again, I highly recommend you reach out to them, because everything that you know about insurance and even the process of applying for coverage can be difficult, but they make that simple. So you can head over to accessbenefits.com. That's spelled AXXESS benefits.com, and generate your own quote or submit the form, and one of the agents will reach out to you in no time. All right, let's get back to this trampoline park story. I became the person that I am today because I lost $1 million, and it propelled me into who I am today. And that, again, is why I am evangelizing this message of put your health first. Do the things. Eat enough protein. So important. Cut out refined grains. There are too much of them. Processed foods. These are things that are currently lending to the metabolic health crisis that we're all experiencing today. And again, this metabolic health crisis, diabetes, heart disease, hypertension, these diseases that we're all experiencing, these are not just, it's not just the end of the road. It's not just death. It's robbing us of life until we die. And I personally believe that the status of my health at that time impacted my ability to save our business. And I will never allow my health to be the reason that I'm not successful. And you shouldn't either. That should be the last reason, because our health is 100% in our control. Going to the gym, 100% in your control. The things that you put in your body, 100% in your control. Your mindset. These are things that you have control over. If you can't control the things that are only up to you, how are you going to be successful with things that aren't 100% in your control? Like starting a business, like being in a relationship, like raising your kids to be good human beings. How are you going to handle those things when you can't even handle the things that are 100% in your control? So as I wrap this up in a bow and talk about how much I really appreciate the experience of losing $1 million, I want to say that you don't have to go through a traumatic experience like I did in order for you to find purpose. Your purpose, whether you believe it or not, is rooted in you feeling good. That is the beginning of it all. You have to feel good in order for you to start walking in your purpose. And that's something that I'm so happy that I get a chance to help other people experience via walking people through lowering their glucose levels. If you're interested in that, you should reach out to me. Go to metabolismmentor.com. And yeah, that's the story of how losing $1 million propelled me into my purpose. And I'm glad I shared that with you guys. Thanks for listening to this episode. Share it with a friend who might have gone through something traumatic, and maybe it'll help them find purpose in their experience the same way I did. Thanks for tuning into this episode, and catch you guys on the next one. Peace.